Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're giving you our Week 6 fantasy football starts, streamers, and fades. We're here to help you make all the right decisions on who to keep in your lineup, who can help you in a pinch, and who you need to be concerned about this week. Let's start this fantasy football podcast right meow.
Hit that drop. Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Upside. I am Justin. Kyle points at himself.
I pointed at you too.
Oh, thanks, sport. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you. Thanks for dropping by our Fantasy Football Podcast and YouTube channel. Week 6 is here. Hopefully Week 6 is here by the time we're recording this right now, and by the time it releases the next morning.
I don't know. Can they go backwards?
Can they go backwards? Yeah. Can we do that? I don't know. We'd be a lot better at this probably. But we are so happy that football is back and pumped that we can help you win that. Hit that drop. Today,
talked over my drop, man.
It happens. Today, we're hitting you with our starts of the week, streamers of the week, and fades of the week. Check out our waiver wire pickups for Week 6 that Kyle did a little solo action for me right up there in the corner. Also, in the description below.
Down below.
Kyle, what you got?
Click subscribe, hit the bell, guys. Make sure that you are on the list so you're getting notified every time we upload the best fantasy podcasts on the internet. Double check your waiver wire. May have run by now. I don't know. A lot of leagues are actually delaying that. So double check the episode. Make sure you're ready to go. And then keep your eyes peeled for what falls onto the wire. There are a few things on ours that we are probably keying on. I'm guessing there's a few good starts that are ready to go.
Go ahead and say that. You want to go ahead and tell me?
I want to tell you what I think.
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, there's no collusion here. No, none.
But that wouldn't be collusion. That's the opposite of collusion, is what that is. I mean,
it worked in my favor, so let's do this.
What, am I colluding to help you? Is that what? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I'll tell you, man, this podcast has been the worst for me, right? Like, I can't get anything, it feels like, off the waiver wire. All right. So make sure you also throw your start sit questions down below, guys. We will help you out the best that we can. And we'll try to, just in case, you need assistance, right? All right. So I think there was one that we missed actually this last week. And so I apologize to the guy that we missed. And we'll try to get you taken care of. If you're throwing a question up there Sunday morning, it's kind of tough for us to get there. We both got kids, guys.
Yeah. All right, that was a buddy of mine. So I appreciate you responding to him, but we'll get you next time, Drew.
All right. So let's dive in headfirst into the shallow end, guys. And let's start off with the starters of the week for us, guys. Let's hit up QBs. Justin, who do you have as a QB?
I have Lamar Jackson as my start of the week. Going against the Philadelphia Eagles, it's a young and attackable secondary for the Eagles. They've been really prone to giving up big plays. Jackson struggled a little bit through a knee injury and illness all of last week, and it kind of showed like he wasn't running as much. So I'm looking for a bounce-back game for Lamar. And I think he might run a little. Watch the practice reports coming out. If he's limited at all for a knee injury, then maybe he scales it back again. But if not, look for him to run against the Eagles. What do you got for me?
I mean, he's had a tough year, so I don't know about a bounce back. I think it's just an arrival, right? Like 2020 is really, he's had that. He's the one who's had the Super Bowl hangover, even though they didn't get there, right? All right, so I'm going with Kyler Murray at Dallas here. Dallas can't seem to get it done on defense. I kind of expect a track meet. I think the Cards are going to have to throw a lot to keep pace. Obviously, that running game has really just kind of disappeared for them. There's talk that Chase Edmonds is actually the guy that they should be going with. And when you get to that point, I think that you've got to kind of look at it and say, maybe we should pick up Le'Veon Bell and put a claim in on him. I don't know. They're one of those teams that I think is a possibility. We were actually talking about that. We couldn't figure out who that might be. Dallas is going to try to run the ball, keep control of the clock. So there is a little bit of that factor that's in there that's going to slow Murray down as far as what he can get done. But I think that if they're able to score a couple times really quickly, it's going to cause Dallas to have to adjust. And we all know Mike McCarthy will just go straight to Dalton and say, hey, you know what? Instead of going like this, go like this about 60 times tonight. And so that's where I'm going. I'm going with Kyler Murray here. All right. What do you have as running back start of the week?
I have David Montgomery versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are giving up the 5th most fantasy points to running backs this season. It's been a couple of rough games back to back for David Montgomery, but it's because of who they have gone against. The Bears have. It was the Colts and then Tampa Bay, who both of them have been really good against the run. One thing I'm looking for is the fact that even with those tough defenses, Montgomery's getting he got 14 targets last 2 games, so 7 targets a game. I don't think he's gotten 7 targets a game in his whole career, but he's had it back-to-back games. So with that, with Tariq Cohen being hurt, getting those targets, he is getting the bell cow work, and he's been kind of game scripted out when it comes to rushes a little bit because they've been playing from behind. But I think with Carolina, I think the Bears and Carolina is a nice matchup. I think he's going to have a really good game this week.
Yep.
What do you got for me?
I'm going with James Robinson versus Detroit. Lions are just atrocious on defense. Who could have guessed that, right? Yeah. Who could have guessed that?
Yeah.
We've got, look, they're giving up 5.57 yards per carry. That's disgusting. Like I could probably do that as a defender for them too and be paid half the cheapest guy. Half the cheapest guy, I'll do just as well.
Just a guy.
I'm just a guy. And no running back who has finished with at least 5 carries this season against them has finished below 4 yards per carry. All right. So anybody who can carry the ball gets at least 4 yards a carry out there. So look, he's getting more involved in the passing game. He's out targeted Chris Thompson 17-9 over the last 3 weeks. And it hasn't even been close, like not at all. And it's just growing in James Robinson's favor. Look for a good bounce back week for him. He'll finish inside the top 24, I think. All right, so let's move on here to wide receiver. Who is your wide receiver start of the week?
Speaking of a bounce back, that's what just happened last week, and this is Calvin Ridley. He's going against the Minnesota Vikings this week. He's back to his normal self after that goose egg in week 4. He put up 10 targets, 8 catches, 136 yards.
Against who?
Who did they go? Who was it against?
Goose egg? Who was it who knocked the ball out of his hand in the end zone?
Oh, was it the Packers or something?
Yeah.
Of course. Go ahead and point. Go ahead. There it is.
There it is. Hey, that's where I do point.
I think it was more for the fact that he wasn't quite healed up from that. They said it was a knee/thigh injury. I don't know how that all.
Get into a knife fight? What is that?
I guess. And he lost in week 4 when it comes to that knife fight. That's for sure. But we're also looking for the fact that the Falcons may be without Julio Jones again this coming week. Are we starting to see? We mentioned Calvin Johnson in the past when it comes to Julio Jones. Are we just seeing all those injuries pile up and we're just not going to see the same old Julio Jones? So we talked about this before. We talked about this before. 1A, 1B, and it's more going towards Calvin Ridley now.
Yeah, I mean, we warned that there could be a chance for Ridley to overtake the top dog role there, but that it would probably happen only because of injury, because Julio is still talented. It's just that he can't stay healthy anymore, it seems.
Yep.
He always played banged up. He always seemed to have an ankle injury or a thigh injury or something like that, and he always played through it. I think that he's just kind of, the age is starting to keep him from being able to play through things. Or maybe he just doesn't want to take those shots anymore, man, that numb him. I can't blame him. No. All right. So for wide receiver, I'm going to run down and take Adam Thielen at Atlanta, or actually versus Atlanta. They're not at Atlanta. They're in Minnesota. He's wide receiver 1 so far on the season. As we kind of predicted, we said he had the chance to be number 1 in targets. He's killing it. There's no competition there. Yeah. And then guess what? Dalvin Cook's down. So without Dalvin Cook, who he's not verified yet to miss, but essentially
it sounds like
he's not going to play. Way. Well, I mean, it doesn't make any sense, right? You're playing against Atlanta. The odds are that Alexander Mattison will be just fine against Atlanta. And then you have a bye week following that. So why not give Dalvin Cook a chance to fully heal up and be fine? But look, if you had Dalvin Cook, you drafted him knowing that he's probably going to miss 3 games a season. That's what he does.
Yeah.
At least if you're lucky. So look, this team's going to lean into the pass because they're missing that true stud at running back. Alexander Madison's pretty good, but he's not Dalvin Cook, obviously. Thielen against a defense that hasn't finished in the top 20 more than 1 time is a sure bet. That's a sure bet. And I would actually probably bet on Justin Jefferson blowing up too.
Yeah.
But I'm going with Thielen here. What do you got on tight end?
Tight end, I have Mark Andrews versus the Philadelphia Eagles, so I have Lamar Jackson. I'm going to double dip into a little Mark Andrews action.
It's a great matchup for him.
It really is, and it's another bounce back, but it's just in terms of targets for Mark in week 5. So he had 9 targets, 6 catches, 56 yards, and a tutty. That was after coming back from a 3-target game. Still got 2 touchdowns in week 4. It's just we were looking for more targets, more action for him, and I think that's going to continue. Eagles are giving up the 3rd most points to tight ends, and I expect Mark to catch 1, maybe 2 touchdowns, man.
Sure.
Who do you have for your tight end?
For tight end, I'm going with Evan Engram versus Washington. He's coming on lately. He hasn't found pay dirt yet. That's really where he's kind of slowing down. That's the spot where he has a room for improvement right now. And you can expect, in my opinion, tight end 1 quality performance. And I think that he's going to find pay dirt this week. I'm going to call for it this week. Danny Dimes is finally going, oh yeah, that guy. The one guy on the team who's, that guy, the one who can kill it. I saw him run a friggin' end around last week, and he was beat when he got the ball. And he ran right past the dude and beat him to the corner. I was like, holy cow, that is a really fast guy. Who was that? It's got to be Slayton, right? Evan friggin' Engram did that. Like, wow. This offense is going to start sending him down the seam finally. He's complaining. He's complaining about all the curl routes they're having him run. And so I think they're going to go, okay, well, we got to make this guy happy. Otherwise, we're going to have to cut him like Le'Veon Bell, right? I mean, it's a New York team. I guess that's what they do. I guess that's what they do. Yeah. All right. So let's move on here to our streamers of the week. These are the guys that are not owned, or guys or defenses that are not owned so heavily in your league that you might actually be able to pick them up, start them this week. Last episode, I talked about a strategy that I want everyone to really, truly consider. And that is the fact that with these unexpected buys, if you're carrying 1 QB, like we always recommend you do, you could run into a problem where your QB suddenly is on a buy and you have to pick the dregs off the wire on Saturday. And so what we're going to suggest, I think, is that you probably need to this season carry a second QB, or at least keep a roster spot open that you will recycle streaming QBs in and out of, who are not necessarily going to see your lineup, but they would see your lineup if you had to put them in. So these are like the best option available. I'm going to spend a little bit of my fab to get them onto my bench so that I have that protection. And so I think that this is something you need to consider. And streaming, guys, is what we're talking about right now, and that's what's going to help you, prevent that catastrophic week that you could have if you find guys on bye. All right, so let's go with QBs. Justin, who do you have as streaming QB?
Well, both of our streaming QBs are going to have really big impacts in fantasy football for this week, but they may have an impact on coaching decisions here.
Yes.
So with that, a segue, I got Ryan Fitzpatrick first, the New York Jets. Fitzmagic is only rostered in 21% of Yahoo fantasy football leagues. The Jets are playing some pretty uninspired football right now. Shocking, I know. Adam Gase-led team is uninspired, but
Wait,
who?
Yeah, he is the worst. That's right.
The last 3 games for Fitzmagic, he's put up finishes for the QB finishes 8, 10, and 2 respectively.
Yep.
He's going to continue to sling it, and I think this is the week that Adam Gase finally gets fired. Yep. I think this is the one.
Hey, I've mentioned that charity league before. It's a 2 QB. Well, it's essentially a 2 QB league. It's a super flex. And I had Dak Prescott as my QB1. And obviously, that was bad. But I still blew out my week because guess who was my super flex? That was Ryan Fitzpatrick. And so that worked out in my favor quite well. Yep. And that is, I love Fitzpatrick. I've always loved Fitzpatrick. I think he and Minshew are great for this game. I love both of those guys. All right. So, and actually, guess who I'm going with? I'm going with Minshew right here, man. Minshew versus Detroit. He's 51% rostered. So he's right on that bubble of where he may or may not be available to you. But he's got a soft defensive matchup here. I wouldn't say it's like a cake matchup, but it's definitely soft. I would expect him to finish at the back end QB1 range. Probably you might get lucky and he gets into the middle of the QB1 range, but I would not bank on that. But as far as a streamer, if you can get a guy to show up as a QB1 and you're streaming him, that is awesome. I would also look for Minshew to be the guy who gets Patricia fired finally. We are both calling for Patricia and Gase to finally find the door. And so we're both going to say it's got to be the off the scrap heap QB coming into town and beating up on the locals, beating up on the teams that are supposed to win, right?
Right.
Yeah, with the coaches who are terrible. All right, so let's move on here. Let's go to the tight end. And who do you have as a streaming tight end?
I have Irv Smith Jr. versus the Atlanta Falcons, 6% rostered. We already kind of mentioned this game, the Vikings versus the Falcons games.
He was in the waiver wire segment from yesterday, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where we're starting to, grasp at some straws right now when it comes to the tight end position. So you're really looking for someone who is, one, has potential, two, has the potential for some opportunity on the football field. So that's why we're looking at Irv Smith Jr. 5 targets, 4 catches, 64 yards, no touchdowns last week. And that was against Seattle. I think he is finally putting it all together. He has the draft pedigree. He has the talent. And we already mentioned Dalvin Cook could be out, so maybe we could see the Vikings throw it a little bit more. And, Cousins threw it 39 times last week, which is by far the most all of the season so far. I look for that to continue. There's going to be some targets going Irv Smith Jr.'s way.
Yep.
Who do you have?
All right, I'm going with Eric Ebron. He's a hit and miss kind of guy, but again, like you said, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel here, guys. He's 53% rostered presently. He's facing I would call it a cake matchup. Cleveland can't cover the tight end worth anything, guys. It's not as bad as Arizona was last year, right? It's not start your tight ends against whatever guy plays against Cleveland. If he finds the end zone, though, you've got a tight end 1 on the week. Like, he is borderline right there. So if he finally gets into the end zone again, then he's a tight end 1. It seems that that's what occurs for him. If he gets a touchdown, he's a tight end 1. So he gets the yardage for you. So you're not going to miss out. And that's kind of what I look for in a streaming tight end. If I'm having to stream somebody, is I'm looking for somebody who's not going to put up a 0 for me. I want somebody in a tight end who's going to get me 40, 50, 60 yards in that range with the potential for a touchdown. If I get that touchdown, then, hey, man, I just hit a home run on that one.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's move on here to defenses. We've got this is going to be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. All right, I have the Washington football team versus the New York Giants, 7% rostered. They're going up against the Giants, who have a pretty young offensive line, is what I'll say. With that, they've had a pretty rough season so far on that line. And Chase Young, come on down, going up against Andrew Thomas, rookie against rookie. Chase Young was out for a couple weeks. He came back last week. I think he's going to turn it on again. That defensive line is really good for Washington. So it's one of those things where I look for them to have a similar performance as they did in week 1. Washington football team had 8 sacks and a pick or 2. So that's what they had in week 1. I think they're going to do the same. Who do you have, Kyle, as your defense?
Let's flip that coin and let's go right over to the other side of the field. And let's go with the New York Giants versus the Washington Sentinels. I'm going to call them the Sentinels.
Nice.
They are 1% rostered. So I'm guessing they're available in your league. And if they're not, then you should probably get that other guy who has them in your league. You should have him kicked out for having that team right now. All right. So look, they're getting sacks consistently. They're not putting up numbers like Washington has, where they've had an 8, sack week or something. But what they have done is 2 sacks each of the last 3 weeks. That's a pretty good number. They're also not going to have a whole lot of points probably get put up against them. They are projected to give up about 20 points based on the line and the over-under. And look, they're not seeing a starting caliber QB out of Washington this week, in my opinion. They're just not. I did see somebody mention that Dwayne Haskins is Byron Leftwich. Essentially. And I'm like, Byron Leftwich.
That was disrespectful to Byron Leftwich.
Yeah. I was like, no, he's actually pretty good. I don't know what you're talking about. I would say that Byron Haskins is somewhere on the spectrum between.
Byron Haskins is what you just said.
I just said Byron Haskins. I was going to say that Dwayne Haskins is somewhere on the spectrum between Byron Leftwich and Jamarcus Russell. That's where.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's a decent count, man.
Yeah, Jameatloaf. Yeah. That's what I heard him called when he was coming into the league, and then the dude got bigger. He even admitted he tried to come back. I want to say last year. He cut a ton of weight and everything. It's like CC Sabathia or something when he realized, my problem is I eat a whole box of cereal every day. No, Sabathia said that actually. He realized that he had to cut out his whole box of cereal. It's like, you smoke a whole pack a day? No, I eat a whole box of cereal. Okay. Dude could throw a curveball though.
That's true.
All right. So a lot better than me.
Yep.
All right. So let's move on here. Fades. Justin, who are you fading this week? What QB are you going to shy away from?
I'm going to shy away from Joe Burrow against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts should get Darius Leonard back, and that just means they have a more complete defense to attack this dismal offensive line for the Penguins, man. Joe is getting lit up these last few weeks, and his numbers have kind of dipped since week 3's matchup versus the Eagles. So, and as a Colts fan, I'm hoping they're coming out angry as hell after losing to the freaking Browns last week. So I think the Colts are going to come out strong, and I just don't think this line can stop our defensive line or the Colts defensive line. Sorry, I need to take out a little bit of the hour. Who do you have as your
when
QB
did you get
fade?
signed?
I know, right?
Yeah. Hey, you volunteering over there? A little bit of an internship. I'm actually going to go with the former Bengals QB, and that's Andy Dalton versus Arizona. The Cardinals are going to feast on Dalton when he tries to pass, guys. Additionally, Dallas will try to keep the ball on the ground, so that's going to control the clock, and that's going to keep it lower scoring if they have a chance at winning. And if that's the case, then Dalton's numbers are going to be depressed. He's not going to be throwing as much as a result. So Dalton's just not going to get to take enough shots down the field that are going to be that are going to actually have a chance. That's the problem here. Arizona's secondary is actually pretty good, and so I would imagine that Dalton's going to have a pretty rough day. I'm not saying don't pick up Dalton. I put him into the waiver episode yesterday, and I think that he is still a valuable component that you can replace Dak Prescott with. But there's a reason that he's not on Cincinnati's team anymore at all, and they didn't even want him mentoring a rookie QB who was going to get the start right away no matter what, right? So I would imagine that Dalton's going to have a pretty rough outing against Arizona. It's going to be a tough welcome to the starting fold there. Who do you got as a running back that you're fading?
I'm fading Miles Sanders versus the Baltimore Ravens, and Ravens are giving up the 6th least amount of points to running backs.
Shocking.
I know. Very shocking that the Ravens have a good defense. Extremely shocking. And I see the Ravens kind of stacking that box and just, hey, Carson Wentz. You don't really have any wide receivers to throw at. You have one tight end to throw at. So we're just going to have you. Yeah, we're going to have you try to beat us with your arm. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense for the Ravens to do that. I think they will. So that means there's going to be limited opportunity for Miles Sanders to break one open. So that's who I have as my fade. Who do you have as your running back fade?
Just before I say that, I want to say that Zach Ertz is borderline cuttable. Borderline droppable.
Really?
Yeah. He's borderline droppable in fantasy football.
Even in this tight end.
Yep.
Needy. Wow.
You can't put up with it, dude. You can't put up with it. No, he's like been, I think, tight end 20 most of the time. Like
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, what are you going to do? He's getting like maybe 3 targets a game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. I mean, they've got so many more weapons to throw to, I suppose, right? Because, guys like Travis Fulgham and
yeah.
All right. So moving on, running back, Joe Mixon at the Colts.
Yep.
We're going to go, right back to the Cincy Colts game. This defense is too good here. Expect a tough week that moves him back into the RB3 territory where he has spent most of the season. Yeah. RBs. We have the meats. He not a sponsor, but if Arby's wants to sponsor us. Yeah. I mean, we'll eat some Arby's and talk some Arby's. He's not had a season that has justified his ADP when you look at it objectively rather than the Joe Mixon truthers. I really never understood the whole Joe Mixon truther thing because he was a high draft pick, right?
Second round.
He was like second round. I don't think you can be a truther for a second round dude who's had the bell cow opportunity for about 2.5 years. I think that the truther aspect of it comes in when you're like, if he had an offensive line, maybe he'd be great. Okay, I can take that. But yeah, this isn't going to be a good one in my opinion. He's finished in RB1 territory one time. He's finished back end RB2 another time, and the rest of the time he's barely been. I think he's been around 30 or worse. So those are mostly against middle of the pack defenses. These are not. This isn't Baltimore. This isn't Indianapolis that he's facing. And now here he is. He's facing Indianapolis. So run. This is not going to be a good one. I would not be surprised to see him, in standard scoring below 10 points. Would not be surprised.
Yep.
Not that I'm calling for that to happen. I'm just saying it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
All right. So wide receiver, where are you going?
Amari Cooper versus Arizona Cardinals. Cooper's probably going to get that Patrick Peterson treatment, and also kind of looked like he wasn't really the favorite target for new QB for the Cowboys, Andy Red Rifle Dalton. And
you had to stop yourself, didn't you?
So last week, even with half the game with Dak, he only put up 4 targets, 2 catches, 23 yards, no touchdowns. Dude, CeeDee Lamb, man, is putting up some crazy numbers, and he's going to probably work out of the slot a little bit more, which is actually kind of gettable a little bit versus the stingy defense. So I just don't think this is another game you want to count on Amari Cooper. I don't know if Andy has the actual rocket of an arm that can get it down the field for what Amari's looking for. So that's my fade. You like how I kind of brought that back?
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I like that. All right. So yeah. And actually, it's kind of funny. I mean, Derek Carr is like, Andy Dalton at this point is like a broke down version of Derek Carr.
Right.
So I don't think Andy Dalton's going to do anything to help you out here, guys. All right. I'm going with Robbie Anderson versus Chicago. This is a top end pass defense that hasn't given up more than 2 touchdowns to wide receivers on any team. Not like 2 to the same wide receiver, 2 wide receiver touchdowns in any game in over 30 games. Okay. So this is not a defense that you want to start your wide receivers against unless you're going, maybe I get 1. And if I'm lucky, I get 2, but then nobody else on that team is going to get 1. All right. So look, Anderson's been serviceable during the tough matchups that Carolina's had. So I'm not going to discount him completely, but this one I think is a little bit too difficult to overcome. I don't think that this is a offense that is ready to handle this sort of defense. Don't bank on more than a wide receiver 3 outcome this week. That's what I'm calling for there. All right. So where are you going with tight end? Who are you fading?
Tight end, I'm going Jimmy Graham versus Carolina Panthers. Panthers are giving up the 8th least amount of points to tight end. And you mentioned this on your streamer on the tight end is you're looking for a guy that can get you 50, 60 yards and you maybe falls into the end zone. Well, Jimmy Graham is one that's just, straight up just falling into the end zone, but he's getting 20, 30 yards.
Yep.
So you're extremely touchdown dependent. He's not getting any other volume. It's just you're getting lucky if he's catching a touchdown. I just don't think it's going to happen against the Panthers this week.
He's like Jared Cook, but worse, right?
Yeah.
You have an even lower floor than Jared Cook. So
and lower athleticism now.
Yeah.
Still,
yeah.
Who do you have as your fade for tight ends?
I'm going with Rob Gronkowski versus Green Bay. It's not a good matchup at tight end, actually, there. That's the part of the defense that's actually really good is the passing defense. So the passing game is not going to really be a focal point of this offense. And when you take the fact that the tight ends are already a diminished focal point of that offense, I think it's just a double whammy here. Green Bay is susceptible to the run, as they always are. And so I think that Bruce Arians is going to try to focus his offensive efforts there. Gronkowski has not finished as a tight end 1 yet this season, and still he's owned for some reason.
Right.
His best has literally been tight end 15. One time. That's it. And I think he had a touchdown that week, and that's why.
Yeah.
So look, if you start Rob Gronkowski, that's on you. Like you better be in a 3-flex league with 2 tight ends required and a tight end premium or something to be starting Rob Gronkowski, guys. At this point, he is not a startable tight end. Sorry, it's not. All right.
I really wish you would tell me how you feel. I really wish you would.
You know what? I'm guilty of holding back too often. That's what I've been told is I am a shrinking violet. And I'm not willing to argue my point or support my position.
No.
Which is, it's funny because that's what I'm paid to do for a
the freaking lawyer here.
Not just lawyer, litigator.
Litigator, sorry.
Yeah. No,
get it right, stupid.
Yeah, no, hey, get it right. No, I spend my time in front of judges arguing with people. So all right, so let's move on here to our survivor picks, guys. And Justin, why don't you go ahead and tell us who your survivor is? Last week mine busto. Holy cow, how did San Francisco lose to Miami?
By that much.
By that much. Yeah, by that much.
That was rough.
Is Shanahan on the hot seat now? Did lose that way, man. The only way it could have been worse is if it was to the Jets. I mean, really.
Yeah, could be. That is the worst.
Well, it absolutely is. All right, so who you got?
I got Baltimore Ravens. I'm going to go ahead and select them. I've already mentioned them a few times. We have on here against Philadelphia Eagles. They have a 75% chance of winning. Only 7.5% of Survivor League players are choosing the Ravens right now. So it's a decent pick, I think, with a high odds of them winning. So that's who I have as my Survivor pick this week. Who you got?
I have New England. They're going against Denver. They've got an 8.5-point spread here. They've got a 77% chance of winning based on that spread. And they are one of the higher picked teams this week. I think that Miami's really highly picked as well. So who wants to rely on Miami though? I mean, they are going against the Jets, and you could just kind of pick every team that plays the Jets this year and probably make it all the way through and beat everybody. But the expected value of picking New England is over 1. It's 1.05. Lines are still moving, so it could be anything. But believe it or not, New England's future value is not very good. So you've got this week.
Get it in now.
Yeah, you've got this week, and then week 9 you've got the Jets, and then you don't see anybody worth playing or starting them up against until week 17 when they face the Jets again. So it's not a good future for for New England outside of Denver and the Jets. Those are the 2 teams that you should be focused on if you can. So if you've still got New England in your survivor pool available to you, I would suggest considering them. I like the Baltimore Ravens pick as well that Justin's got. The Eagles are pretty much a dumpster fire right now at wide receiver. So like last year, so why not? All right, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight. Make sure that you double check that waiver wire episode since waivers appear to be clearing late for everyone. Make sure you get that, as well as the week 5 waiver wire pickups, because those could still be available as well, and they still are valuable. Those are season-long pickups. Those are not streamers that we're talking about. So I will throw both of those episodes on the screen right now. And so make sure that you hit that subscribe button as well as the bell so that you're notified every time that we upload the best fantasy football podcast on the internet. And we thank you guys for being fans of the Upside. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See you guys.